6. Man Toga, SRS runway, auto thrust is blue. 80 knots, thrust set. 2500. 31. Rotate.
All right, all right. Whoa, loud. All right, here we go, finally. What is going on, guys? Of course, nothing is really ever smooth around here, but hey, we got it. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel here. Let me get out of the terminal building. I am super excited for today's flight. I'm happy to see everybody here. Dougal McTavish, good to see you. Commander Gunnar Hoffen, you told me how to pronounce your name once, and I still forget, and I've screwed it up, man. I apologize. Christian, good to see you. Fort George, welcome. Travis Hardman, Wojtek CYVR, Gil, 1984, good to see you around here. Andy, Casey, Brian Rosner, congrats on 20K. Thank you. Benny. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Fuzzy Condor, all my members in chat, everybody else, if I missed your name, I apologize. But welcome to the stream, guys. I didn't intend for this to be a 20K sub celebration, and technically it's not even our official one because I will announce our 20K sub tour when we are on our way to Costa Rica on this stream. But this is kind of a pseudo one. I wasn't keeping track of the subs. I knew I was at 19K, and then last night you guys were messaging me on Discord, hey, 20K, congrats. So I sincerely appreciate the support, guys. It's been a long road coming. Well, we've been, 2+ years at this right now. It has been a lot of fun. So I am super excited. Thank you very much for all the support that you guys have given me. So that is, it really is kind of, when I sit here and think, wow, 20,000 subscribers, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people that subscribe to the content. So let's keep that number growing. I'm ready to get flying here with you guys on this stream. Greetings from Guatemala. Adrian Guzman, thank you, man. Yeah, this is going to be a really fun stream, guys. Okay, so we've got the Aurora Airport here in Guatemala City, which is pretty awesome itself. And then we're going to be flying down to San Jose, Costa Rica, which is, exclamation point scenery in chat if you want the link. Also, it's in the description. But it is probably one of the best freeware sceneries I've ever seen. I put it up there against the best of them with any of the Mr. X freewares or anything like that. It's one of the best freeware sceneries, definitely payware quality. And San Jose, Costa Rica has some pretty incredible approaches. And I actually had a buddy that flew down there the other day, and he got a pretty nice surprise on the approach. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to try to execute it with real-world procedures. I haven't myself flown down to Costa Rica. I've done Guatemala, but I've just somehow avoided Costa Rica, not by intention or anything. I just haven't got it. So I've got a whole section in the book where we're going to talk about some special procedures for flying in there and doing a circling approach, because they do this thing where they like to give you an ILS approach or on one runway on 25, I believe, and then they switch you last minute and you have to do the circling visual approach, which is going to be a lot of fun. So where is my, I don't know, all my audio mixers just basically disappeared. Well, we'll have to deal with that later, but let's go ahead and get started, guys. Wojtek coming in with 10 Canadian. Thank you so much. He says, congrats on 20K. Have a great flight. I'm so excited, man. Thank you, Wojtek. You've been around a very long time as well on this channel. Seeing all the members there with all their silver stripes and captain stripes, very, very much appreciate every single one of you. A Donut also coming in with a $30 bomb. He says, everyone welcome on board today's flight. I snuck donuts through security somehow. I got the Boston cream. Donut, you know how to speak to my heart, my friend. Those Boston creams, I'm going to be up on the East Coast tomorrow, so I may have to sneak into another Dunkin' Donuts myself. But I really appreciate the support, Donut. Thank you so much for that $30 donation. All right, guys, let's get into the airplane here. Let's get this airplane fired up. We're going to go battery 1, battery 2, and we're going to go straight to the GPU. That is set. I got to make sure my audios are good here. Turn up X-Plane a little bit. We're going to let everything boot up here. We'll brighten up our McDoos. Get our radios on here. We got a couple things. We have a wheels up time of 22:20. That's when we got to be out of here. So about 25 minutes from now, we got to be taking off for a beautiful sunset approach. The circling approach on the Cyrus visual is not authorized at night, so we have to get in before the sun completely sets, or we're going to be SOL. Team Vodka, you just woke up, almost missed it. Welcome, Team Vodka. Glad to have you on board, my friend. Am I going to get a face cam? Maybe for member stuff. How about any of you members been watching those shorts? I've been doing those shorts on my last trip, my last 4-day, just kind of giving you little insight of what I got going on behind the scenes. I think I can really improve those. I really like that YouTube short idea that they got going on. So, all right, let's go crew supply oxygen on up the left-hand side. That can come on. CVR test. Beep. You guys probably saw me do that in the shorts. 1, 2, and 3. We'll get our 8 ears in line. Wait for a single on bat light. There it is. It's on and it's off. Auto. I'm going to be flying off auto. Arm that. Oh, we don't have our fuel yet. We'll go ahead and keep that off. Everything else looks good there. Fire test. And APU. Up the right-hand side, everything else looks good. We'll go ahead and turn on that PA knob. Beautiful. Come down here. Let's check our engine page. We've got oil. Pressurization's in auto. Hydraulics are fully serviced and slightly over-serviced. Which truck is making that noise? Can I get rid of one of those trucks? One of them is just really loud. But I still have to... is it Stairway 1? Yeah, that makes it a little better. I'll get rid of Stairway 1. All right, let's come down here. We're going to program the box. I did update my Navigraph, so thank you, whoever, I think it was Christian, Mr. Fort George over there that told me to update before the stream. All right, this is going to be an interesting flight plan. We got a lot to dissect here. We got some special procedures we got to do, so I hope you guys are ready to learn something. I'm ready to teach something. We're going to get after it. So MGGT to MROC. Again, I've flown into Aurora, Guatemala City quite a few times. It's in of itself can be a pretty challenging approach. Line the IRS flight number is going to be AVA 357, but there's some other things we have to take into account for takeoff as well. Cost index on this flight, we're going to do 75. I don't care what the paperwork says. And our cruise flight level, I believe, was 350. Only about an hour and 10 minutes flying time once we get up, so it shouldn't be too bad. And the actual temp is plus 11, so minus 11. That's going to be negative 43 on the temp. The tropo is way up there. I don't think Toliss takes 50,000. Oh, it does. Awesome. Cool deal. All right, here we go. MGGT. What do we have for weather? I did get my active sky finally updated, which is good. Wind 030 at 10. So let's pull up our charts here. Airport 10.9 page. That's the GPU, isn't it? Oh, it might be the GPU. Felipe, all the shorts are for members only. My fan is pretty loud, Dougal. It's hot here, man. I do have one fan running. You may be hearing the background noise. I apologize, but I'm still working on the audio of the office. We're going to get it all set up. So we're going to use 02 for departure. Runway 02, and let's go back to our flight plan. It's going to be the Palin. Palin departure to Capan, insert that. We're going to scroll down. Now we're going to take from Cape Ann Airways, we're going to take Upper Gulf 436. Upper Gulf 436 all the way out to Lib. And then from there we join the arrival, the Barrel 4. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do exactly what happened to my buddy here the other day. He gave me the full lowdown. It was pretty gnarly what he went through. So we're going to set up for the ILS 7 on the Barra 4 Lima. That's Barra 3. What, did it not update? All right, well, close enough. Barra 3 Lima from... we're not going to use a VIA. No VIA. Insert that. We'll take a look at that. Here, let me pull up this. Smooth Ops coming in. with a $10 donation. Smooth Ops, what is up, man? He says, a fully loaded catering truck with white claws asking to unload. The passengers wanted to be numb during the approach. Smooth Ops, I'm right there with you, man. I don't have any white claw with me tonight. I got an early report time out there tomorrow, so I just got myself some unsweet tea and some water here. But yeah, those white claws, man, they're dangerous. Just ask XP. Stall it on the go around on that white claw game. Thank you so much for the donation, Smooth Ops. I appreciate it, man. Team Vodka, they updated a year ago. Yeah, I know. I just, once they had to reinstall all that stuff, I was like, I don't want to deal with it. But now I'm back on the trade, man. We're getting it back. We're getting the band back together. All right, so that looks fine. We're going to go from lib direct to OC507. We're going to clean that up. That looks good. All right, beautiful. All right, so that is set. That's our flight plan. Now our secondary, this is going to be interesting. Now, I don't think they have any single engine charts here, so let me pull up my secondary here. We're going to do MGGT to MGGT. And I'm going to get rid of that other truck as well. Let me go control panel. Let me hide the second stairway. We'll probably get the APU fired up here in a minute. All right, if we have to do an emergency return, let me pull up my special stuff here. We're on the Palin departure. And a complex special for runway 2 using the Palin. So, if we lose an engine, we have to build this somehow. Basically, we're going to track the 040 outbound from Aurora. So, here we go. Secondary flight plan. I'm going to put the departure runway 2 in there. Insert that. And then I'm going to put in AUR. Let me pull up my ND so I can see what I'm drawing here. AUR, I think this will work. 004 at 19. Will that work? Godspeed. Look at that. So there's our single engine. If we lose an engine, we have to go out PBD01, and then it's a right turn back direct to the VOR. This is so you don't run into terrain. Oh, but see, it wants to make a left turn, so I'm actually going to clear Aurora. I'm going to make another space here. Well, yeah, I'm going to make a disco and put it right here. I'm not going to connect it. So I've got PBD01, so if we lose an engine, it's going to be a left turn 040. We're going to track that. We're going to make a right turn back to the VOR and hold. And then from there, we can set up an arrival. Let's just do the ILS to 2, have that set up in case of emergency. We are flying the Toliss, so there are a lot of situations where we may have to actually use this. This complex special single engine procedure here that I'm doing is not really publicly available. It's just something that you'd have when you work at a company, but it's something that you do want to have a good idea in the back of your mind what's going on, because high terrain like this, high density altitude airports, if something goes wrong, you're probably not flying straight out. There's something else you got to do. So our secondary is set there. Let's set up the perf for the secondary. I'm going to do outside air temp of 23, 0 on the wind, and what was the barometer? 30 on the meter here. We'll get that set up. A lot to set up here on this. 200 on the DH. All right, so that's set. RadNav, we are going to hard tune something now. So we're going to hard tune the Aurora VOR, and I'm also going to hard tune course 004. Boom. So now, should I have an engine failure, not only do I have it in my secondary, but I can go Rose VOR, and look at this, course 004 outbound from the Aurora VOR, so I can back it up with raw data. So again, these are all little steps that you're probably never going to see much in flight simulation, but it's important that you do it in real life, so I kind of try to bring that to the stream here for you. Yeah, I did update my air rack, Team Vodka. Oh, the 4 Lima is for 2.5. Thank you, Christian. Appreciate it. Thank you, man. Alexandra Bellini, does anyone know how to fix the slow mouse on the Toliss? So my answer that I saw in their Discord was that that's due to X-Plane 10 support. So because Toliss supports X-Plane 10, they got to keep a lot of different things running. That's kind of, I guess, how I would look at it. So unless they drop the support for X-Plane 10, that's going to be kind of what you get. So, all right. Where are we at? We did our secondary. We'll talk about that later on the departure. Now we need to finish what we were doing here. So we're back to Aurora, back here, departure what did I say? Are we on the Palin? Yeah. There's our departure procedure, which is 012 out to Palin. Good. Secondary, Radnavis hard tune, a NIT B. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. Let's load it up. We, according to SimBrief, have... I'm actually going to match this up because weights are a big deal on this flight. So our zero fuel weight is 157.8. So let's go ahead and get rid of some of this excess cargo. Oh wow, we can take a lot of people here today. 157. And our fuel is gate fuel 14.2, rounded up. 14.6, that works. We need to get an amendment. We're 300 over. All right, we're going to apply all these load settings. That gives us 157.6 and a CG of 25.0. Look at that. Fuel on board is 14.6. Check that. Boom. 30 minutes extra gas according to that. Let's go ahead and get our fuel pumps on. Get rid of these trucks because I can't listen to them anymore. Get the APU fired up. No, I'm just going to go here. I'm just going to go high at all. Oh, yes. That's so much better. So much quieter. Carter says Christian told Viewman off for not updating his AirAC. Yeah. Wait, Christian made somebody cry on VATSIM? Doesn't surprise me. Why doesn't that surprise me? There's flap open. Let's go ahead and fire up the APU. Take a listen outside here. Start closing up some of those doors as well. Yes, Anthony, this is the Toliss. Captain Gio, what's going on here? Watching with the youngest before working a few. Captain Gio, thanks for stopping by, man. I really wanted to fly the Neo with CFM leaps for Avianca, but there is no CFM leap paint job for Carter's engines. So I couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. All right, APU bleeds on. We'll disconnect that. And let's go ahead and start closing up some of these doors, shall we? Bless you. Somebody just sneezed COVID all over the place. Man, but those IAE motors look pretty good. Max Rank, what's going on, man? Made it still in the planning phase? What's up, gang? Max Rank, welcome. Yeah, we just fired up the APU, man. We got our flight plan loaded up here. We have a 22:20 departure time. So let me come back inside. Let's see here. We got about 13 minutes before we are wheels up, which that works fine. I'm going to go VOR. We don't have any ATCs, so we're going to go 350 on the top altitude. And we also need to set our V speed. So let me go here, MGGT, runway 02. And we also need to set some V speeds for this one. Loading perf. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. We're going to do a flap 3 Toga. 134. Actually, it's probably realistic. We probably get away with 1+F here because second segment. So we need to do, let's do this. We're going to do Toga 1+F. So it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to scratch that. 147. 150 and 153. Flaps config 1+F, no flex, packs off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the APU running on this one. Hopefully I remember to do that. Travis, the sounds on the door closing from BSS is just like real life? Yeah, it is. It really is. Alright, so that's set. Let me clear him out. Let me just make sure everything is good here. Now let's look at our charts. So outbound 012, right turn to Palin. That's in the box. Alright, we're going to have terrain on. This is high terrain airport. Definitely have terrain on. I'm going to turn down that a little bit. Alright, 350 is set. 3030 on the meter. I think we're just about ready to go. Let's turn down temps a little bit. Let's close up that door.
Transporting is complete, ladies and gentlemen, in just a few moments. So we close in the main cabin door and be on our way to Chicago.
Oh, we're definitely not going to
Ground to
Chicago.
cockpit. Please, show me where you want
Alright,
to
so
go.
we're going to runway 2, so we're going to do back like so.
Ground to cockpit. Tau is driving up.
Carter says I was going to make the LEAP livery, but you said you were going to do it, Max. Yeah, that was, he was going to do it, but then I said, well, I'll just use the IE. But see, I was thinking I was going to stream yesterday too. So after I scheduled that stream last minute, I only have 2 days off between trips here this week, and it's no fault to myself. I picked up another trip, so yeah, because I was flying last minute, I switched it to the IE mod.
And ladies and gentlemen, so we're ready to close the main cabin door. All guests must be seated with seatbelts securely fastened. Tray tables put away and cabin items securely stowed. Also, lavatories will be locked for takeoff and landing.
I do like this livery. I don't like white liveries typically, but this white one and the red
Okay,
accents.
all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Alright, let's do our last review here. Let's pull up our 10-9. We're going to depart runway 2, so we're going to taxi out Uniform Tango all the way to runway 2. That looks good. I think there's some taxiway restrictions. Let me pull up my charts here real quick. This airport has a lot of stuff when you're going. Maneuvering constraints. Blah, 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 blah.
Start connected and bypass being inserted. Release parking brake.
I have this note, which is pretty cool. ATC should not issue taxi clearance using parallel taxiway if a 727 or larger is cleared to land or take off. That's cool that they even have that on there. Blue Bear, welcome to Private Pilot, man. Exclamation point, welcome for your perks in chat. Glad to have you on board. And kind of a new thing that I think I'm going to stick with it is all my members, when I do the shorts, YouTube shorts, when I'm out on the road, do little updates, that's all going to be members only. I think I like that. The way to give back to you guys. I appreciate the support. That two-tone on the IE drives me nuts, but can't remove it. Nah. All right, I think we're ready to go. Let's do a little checklist. Doors and windows are closed and locked, and beacon on. Thrust levers idle. Parking brake is set for now. Let me get my joystick set here. All right, I'm ready. You guys ready? Brakes released. Clear to push, sir.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Here we go. Let's get out of here. Ignition mode to ignition start. And starting one.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, understand the main cabin door has been closed. All guests must remain seated with your seatbelts securely fastened. Thank you.
That's a pretty good startup sound. I just had to let you guys enjoy that sound. Whiskus says V1 got me to return to the sim again at turn of year and got the Toliss 319 bug. Whiskus, welcome back, man. I'm loving X-Plane right now. I really am. Dougal says the Special 7.2 livery is coming very soon. Yes, it is. Dougal, good point. Thank you for reminding me, guys. There are some massive giveaways about to go down. It's going to go down on our 20K, probably tour event, because I have to have some time off, but it's all courtesy of SimWings, some serious events. And I believe, Dougal, that Q8 is doing his giveaway on the, did you say the 18th? I believe you said the 18th. Let me look at your message so if I can get it right here so I don't give you guys a bunch of fake news. So it is going to be, oh, I'm sorry, Saturday the 14th So that's this Saturday, guys. Q8 Pilot's hosting another huge giveaway from SimWings. You guys are probably going to want to tune into that one. And we're going to have one of our own here probably next week, late next week sometime. I just got to figure out what days I actually have off. But, Dougal, I can't wait for that 7.2 livery, man. That's going to be special. All right, we got a good start on Engine 1. Let's go ahead and start Engine 2 as soon as he drops the tug here, because I want to listen to that startup. Dynasty, thank you. Appreciate it. It's been a long time coming, guys. It feels so good to finally have reliable internet again. It's this
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Brake set. Clear to disconnect.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Roger, we're starting Engine 2. This channel has had a lot of ups and downs, and I think we're on the up and up now. Man, look at this shot right here. This wing view. This 321 wing. This livery. Just, I don't know, the red with the Avianca on the wing, the sharklet. The only thing that would make it look better is a CFM leap out there. Krishna, hey, welcome to Private Pilot. Exclamation point, welcome for your new perks in chat. Appreciate you joining the channel. Yep, Dougal's got the deets. 14th, Saturday, Q8 Pilot, $500 in giveaways, guys. All courtesy of SimWings, giving back, wind down the project, been a huge success. Awesome. I can't wait for that stream. We're going to be doing one here. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for that. I just want to make sure I have a dedicated day so I don't have to...
Something on the right. We'll see you next time. Have a safe flight.
And they got the accent perfect. All right, hey, we'll see you next time. Have a safe flight. But actually, ironically, just on my last flight home to Dallas the other day, guys, I had to push back. I had to call the ground crew back because we had a nose wheel steering issue. So never let them disconnect unless you are ready to go. I normally try to wait for that, but I had to call them back real quick. All right, looks like we got two good starts. That's going to go back to normal. Let's arm the spoid brake. Let's extend flaps 1 from right here. Man, this view. Max rank, ups and downs. Team Vodka says, can't wait for the Concorde to Tokyo. How do you know this, Team Vodka? I'm not going to Tokyo. You don't know that. Maybe, allegedly. I will say this. I do love Chinese food. All right. We got two good starts. We're flaps config 1. Let's go ahead and kill... Actually, scratch that. We're going to leave the APU bleed on for this takeoff. So we have our pack performance set. APU bleed is going to be running. That is good. And it's a short taxi. It's not a short taxi, but a narrow taxiway. So in Guatemala, something I do here in real life. Let's do our flight control checks at the gate. Full up, full down, neutral, full left, full right, a neutral, a rudder, semi-full left, semi-full right, neutral, max, takeoff config. We're going to leave the weather radar off. We'll go TARA since we're on VATSIM in the above mode. That is set. Forward call for the flight attendants. That is good. What was our trim value for takeoff? We did 1+F. Toga trim is up 0.7. Come back. It seems like a high value here, but should be all right. All right, I got to get my yoke set up here, or else my side sticker. I'm going to be all over the place on this approach. All right, I think we're ready to go. You guys ready? Brakes off. Cinematic taxi out here. I know it's not China. I know it's not China. That doesn't change the fact that I love Chinese food. Think more along Asia. Oh, wow. Man, these IE motors are ripping. XP72, welcome to the stream, man. He's celebrating his 18 months as a private pilot. Wow. Thank you so much, XP, for your continued support. I look forward to listening to the Blue Experience podcast tonight at 7, I believe it's 7 o'clock my time, 8 Eastern. Maybe I got the time wrong. Anyway, you should be subscribed to XP's channel anyway, so you'll get the notifications. But they're going to be talking about FS Expo tonight. So I love listening to that podcast. XP, I think you guys are doing a fantastic job. Thank you for your continued support, man. That approach would be epic. No, talk to you, Kensai. I have to check it out, Team Vodka, but yeah, we're gonna be headed that direction. You're onto something. You're on the right area of the world. All right, we're gonna make a left turn. You know what? I don't think we can taxi. We have to back taxi, right? I believe we have to back taxi on this one. It's been a while since I've been here. Make the next left. Fuzzy Condor says, so even though the 319-2021 wing is the same, the A321 is only extends flaps in addition to slats in 1+F? Is that why it's labeled 1+F? Nope, they all extend 1+F on the ground. They're all 1+F on the ground, my friend. Alright, so nobody is taking off or landing, so technically we could take this taxiway. So clear right. I really should have activated my track IR for this stream. This is real Guatemala here. I mean, the runway is it's shaped like a bowl, and then there's this big cliff here. Coming into land in Guatemala is a lot of fun. So I guess this is what they're talking about. When you're on the parallel, you got to be listening up because you don't want them to clear a 727 or bigger aircraft to land because you have a wingtip strike there. I think we can take this all the way down, right? I believe so. It's been years since I've been here in real life. Christian, I changed it to flap 1. I changed it to flap 1 for our second segment numbers of the terrain. So what I would like, I mean, would like a lot of things, but this is really good for sim purposes. I do like this, being able to select. Now the real airplane, and we even have a note for this airport in particular, you got to use what Aerodata or whatever company you use for your maximum performance, essentially. So the performance data that we send off via ACARS will tell us which is best for this runway, this departure, with these environmentals. It will give you a flap setting based on all that, as opposed to me just guessing. I'm guessing flaps 1+F here because, I mean, it's a 9,000 foot runway. It's not super hot, and there's a lot of terrain around, but you know, I could be off. It could be a flap 2 or it could be a flap 3, depending on what Aerodata gives you. Now, contrary to John Wayne, when we do that maximum takeoff performance, where we use the noise abatement procedure, we want max takeoff for the short runway, that's a flaps 3. And the reason you can really get away with that over there is there's no terrain going that direction. You're basically out over the water. So second segment numbers don't really come into play that much on John Wayne. Those idle sounds, I agree. That's what I'm trying to look at. The only problem is this nasty green stuff here, but the idle sounds are amazing on the IEs for sure. Anthony, you just tuned in. Welcome, man. Welcome to the stream. No, you didn't miss anything. We're taxiing for takeoff here in Guatemala. We are 3 minutes behind schedule, but we're going to be all right. We got to get down there before it gets dark, or else we're not able to circle. Osaka's airport, their main airport before Kansai, has an approach similar to Kai-Tech. I'll be putting on... Well, I'll save that for later. Why on Airbus planes you have to manually push the button for a plane to descend on a Boeing automatically descend? Because Airbus wants pilots in control. Approach into Peru? I have never heard of that one. I have to look that one up. Miss Jungles, welcome to the stream. We are just getting started here. All right, all our takeoff checks has been done. Everything's down to the line. I got my perf page up. We are ready to go. Terrain is on. All right, so let's review this. Basically, our departure procedure is fairly simple. At or above 7,000, we start to right turn out to Palin and on a route. Should we have an engine failure, we're going to make a slight left turn to 004, which I have set up here. Rose Nav, it's already tuned in. Rose VOR 004 is already set. We're going to track that outbound, and then we're going to make a right turn back to Aurora and hold should we bang an engine. All right, finals clear. Let's go ahead and light it up. We're leaving our APU on for performance. Finals clear. Line up and wait. I wish I could line up from this view. This is one of my favorite views as a kid, is seeing the threshold stripes come into play here with the engine. Hey, that lineup wasn't all that bad. Hashtag real pilot. Let's take a look at that one. Oh yeah, look at that lineup. There we go. Now all the haters can use that. Ramon Thompson, you like that? All right, let's get one good shot here of this beautiful livery before we blast out of here. I don't know how you guys hate on the IAE motors. They just look so much more proportionate. I'm loving that shot. We got the pack set, Georgiev. We have the APU bleed running, so that's going to take care of the packs. Now, I'm doing that for a reason, because should we have an engine problem, maybe we need to do have some pressurization, or maybe we need to use the APU for a relight. I've got the APU running, so. Yes, you can do packs off, but you can also do APU bleed on. It accomplishes the same performance. That's your house to the right, Adrian? Awesome. We're 1 like away from 100 likes. Let's hit 100 likes before takeoff. Let's hit 100 likes before takeoff. We're sitting at 99. I'm ready. Are you guys ready? Let me set up my view here. We're going to pull this out right about there. And we're going to go to this view here. Nose forward on the stick. Let's spool them up 50. Let's get out of here, y'all. Stable. Yep. Toga SRS runway, auto thrust blue. Thrust set. Alright, I gotta pay attention here. This is what happens when I try to watch the wing view. V1. Rotate. Little brake. Gear up. Flyby. That's pretty sweet. Do another flyby. Those engines are working, man. Positive trend in airspeed here. Thrust climb. Auto thrust. There's acceleration out too. We'll kill the APU. Now we're in the turn. First time running active sky again. I hope it didn't mess up all the turbulence settings. Well, look at that density altitude, man. We're still 190 knots here. Maybe we should let it auto retract. We'll let it auto retract here. See, S speed is way up there. So where the slats are going to go ahead and auto retract on me. Or I'm sorry, the flaps will. It's Watch the auto retraction sequence. There goes the flaps, but you'll notice the slats are going to stay out. It's bumpy out of here today. All right, there's S speed. You see the slats are still out. We'll go flap 0. Let's get back to flying here for a second. Yep, that is the Toliss A321. Bank angle check. I saw somebody made that bank angle check emoji. We're going to get that officially in here as well. Alright, I want to go autopilot 1 because I want to look around here. So, APU is coming offline. Everything is looking good. Where are my spoilers? Out a little bit. There we go. Flyby. I'm liking this active sky here. Yeah, so that sound that you heard, that dun dun dun, that's the nose wheel coming off the turtles. We call them turtles or centerline lights. And then that wheel is spinning really fast right after rotation, so a lot of times you hear that noise. Sometimes you'll hear it or feel it vibrating the wheel as it slows down after you retract the gear. Thank you, County MC. Appreciate it, man. Yes, Whiskus, on all the narrow bodies, the flaps will auto retract at, oh man, check my question, 204 knots, 207 knots, between 204 and 210 knots, they will auto retract, but the slats will remain extended. And that is for situations exactly like you guys just saw on this departure. So we had a very high S speed, and you don't really want to just retract all your flaps in, because then what's going to happen is that tiger tail, that V alpha or VLS is going to come up and bite you because you're so heavy. It's kind of similar to, when you hear the high speed climb outs of 777s and all these heavy jets that take off, they need to accelerate past 250 knots in order to clean up, because the stall speed on a heavy 777 is close to 250 knots, if not over. So while not as extreme on the 321, that's kind of the concept behind why you have that auto retraction of the flaps only and not the slats. So it gives you a little bit more room, so you're not overspeeding the flaps, but you still got your leading edge devices out there help you climb it out. So that's good. We're at 10,000 feet. Let's go ahead and kill the lights up here. We'll ding the flight attendants. We're pretty much out of the terrain. I'm going to pull up my weather radar. Let's go ahead and activate that here. Make sure we're not picking up anything. I'm going to keep terrain on the FO side, so he's watching. Beautiful active sky clouds as we accelerate to 310 knots on the climb now. Benny, what a fantastic question. I'm glad you asked, my friend. He says, what conditions do you land an Airbus at flap 3 config? So, the flap 3, depending on who you used to work for, Airways, they would use flap 3 as standard landing for the 321. Now, there's a couple different ideas behind it, but essentially what happens when you use flaps 3, you have to use it situationally. So, in situations where there is a high gust factor, especially such as wind shear, and maybe you're moderately to heavy loaded, so you've got a heavy airplane, you've got unstable conditions, winds, wind shear. If you need to go around, your best performance is going to come from a flaps 3 setting. Now, the problem with flaps 3 is your approach speed is actually going to be a little bit higher. Your true airspeed is going to be a little bit faster, therefore your ground speed is going to be a little bit faster, so your deceleration is going to be impacted, and your stopping distance is going to be impacted by flaps 3. So if you have a super long runway, it's cool outside, but you have wind shear conditions, flaps 3 all day. But if it's a short runway, high density altitude, gusty conditions, situationally you may not want to use flaps 3. You may want to stick with that flaps full, because flaps full is going to give you your best landing performance overall. However, you're going to be impacted on that go-around. But what you can do to compensate for that is maybe adjust your VAP speed. Bump that VAP speed a little bit, not to exceed VLS VREF plus 15. So the flap 3 landing is something that you definitely want to practice as a pilot, because if you don't do it normally, it's going to feel weird and you're going to end up plunking them on the ground pretty good. But I do flaps 3 situationally, and that's why you have that overhead flap 3 config set up if you want to use, so you don't get that jip whiz on the flaps 3. But Airways used to land flap 3 in the 321 as standard practice. So the 321 in particular too, when you come in flaps 3, you're actually going to be coming in with a little bit shallower. So think about tail strike avoidance as well. Could be something that you factor into. But what I'm basically trying to hit home is situations. We're going to make this emoji. Situations are situational, right? So depending on all different factors, flaps 3 may be a very viable option. Can I explain high density altitude airports like Denver? What does that mean? So high density altitude, and we could talk a long time about high density altitude, but essentially what that means is, I'm going to set standard here, 1, 2, 3. It seems like it's smooth out here, so let's go ahead and kill that seatbelt sign. We'll let them roam. So high density altitude, think of it as the altitude at which the airplane is going to perform at. So if you have an airport like Denver, which has a 5,000, we're just going to call it 5,000 foot field elevation. So it is physically 5,000 feet above sea level. A density altitude may be significantly higher depending on environmental factors, temperature being the largest one. Now, pressure will have a little bit to deal with that as well, but the biggest contributing factor to a higher density altitude is going to be your temperature. So if you have Denver in the summertime when it's 90 degrees out, the density altitude may actually be 7, 8, 9,000 feet. So what that means to you as a pilot is the airplane is going to be landing or taking off and performing like it would be at 9,000 feet. So as a pilot, what does that mean to you? Well, the first thing I'll tell you, and I tell new hires, is your flare. You're going to want to flare earlier because the air is less dense, you have less performance, and your ground speed is going to be significantly higher. Your true airspeed is going to be faster because you have to move through the air faster to create the same amount of lift as you would at a low density altitude airport. So when you're operating in high density altitude, high terrain, high temperature, you're going to have a fast approach speed, a fast true airspeed, which is going to mean a faster ground speed, which will mean a longer landing roll. The flare is going to take more to arrest that descent. You're coming down, high true airspeed. If you flare at 30 feet, you're going to smash. You're going to pull back on that side stick, and there's going to be no change in your descent rate whatsoever, and you're going to smash it, put a dent in the runway. So those are factors that we talk about when I say high density altitude. It's the altitude at which the airplane is performing at. Yeah, you go faster through the air, correct. But your indicated airspeed will actually be the same, or there won't be much change. I'm going to turn down that audio for you guys a little bit. Alright, let's verify everything is looking good here. No weather, terrain is okay. How's our fuel doing? Let's go ahead and copy the active. And we no longer need Aurora in the RadNav, so we'll clear out Aurora. I got us landing with 6.4. We're already below max, so that is good. If I didn't know any better, I'd say we are on our way to Costa Rica, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. What's the outside air temperature? 4. Going through a little bit of cloud here. Let's go get our engine anti-ice on. That's one ominous looking cloud. I haven't flown with active sky in so long. Hey, look at that, right through the top. Heats are coming off, another flyby. Wow, look at that wall. Oh, that's like a frontal boundary almost. Let me do this. Let me go outside. We'll set the view up here. We'll talk some more volumes coming down. External, we'll drop it down to about 35%. It's still really loud, huh? That's a cool shot. Charlie says, thank you very much. Interesting. Learn a lot. Appreciate it, man. That's what I'm here for. Whiskus says, flaps 3 will also give you fuel savings, less drag. Yep. Yeah, so you're also, it's a little bit better on the performance side of things, efficiency. Travis Hartman says, I think it's interesting JetBlue is sending a 321neo to Burbank from Kennedy. I bet those landing takeoffs are interesting. Yeah, so taking off out of Kennedy, no big deal. 321neo, you'll have a pretty good amount of fuel on board. Well, the Neo, you probably have significantly less than if you were taking a classic 321, so that's good. But yeah, that's one of those approaches where your dispatcher really needs to be paying attention, because if you overfuel or your weight's too high, that will be a significant impact for you on your approach into Burbank with short runway ops. So you got to make sure you're burning the right amount of gas or the proper landing weight. It was 98 in Denver yesterday. You in the sim and you smashed it phase 1. Exactly. So I'll tell you, I got a little Denver story for you. So I was relatively new on the airplane. Thank you for the subscribe, Rand. Appreciate it. Thank you to all the new subscribers there. I missed the subscriptions there. I got the alert box turned way down. So when I was relatively new on the airplane, I was going into Denver, flying in the right seat, and as we were approaching the airport, it was midsummer, so it was probably, I don't know, 95 degrees outside. It was hot. And I was trying to remember. I think the approach controller came on and said, hey, there's wind shear advisories at the field. Last report of wind shear was on the west side at blah, blah, blah. So there's definitely wind shear happening. So I thought I was like, oh, I'm going to be super smart. I'm like, well, I'm going to do a flaps 3 landing. And the captain looked at me and he's like, okay, I mean, makes sense. You want to do flaps 3. And then he's like, well, what are you going to do? You know, the density altitude is super high. And to kind of take a step back here for a second, when you fly the Airbus, the only real way to learn really good techniques is, you know, somebody teach you a technique, or you just learn from making a mistake or doing something that maybe isn't necessarily a mistake, but that you probably in hindsight shouldn't have done or should have done it another method. So they try to encourage captains, and I try to do the same thing, is to let the FO fly, let him figure it out. You know, unless he's jeopardizing the safety of the airplane, I'm really not going to intervene, because if he's going to be high, you know what, he's got to learn energy management. That's what's going to make them a better pilot. So that's what was happening in reverse. I was new on the airplane, so he's like, okay, flaps 2, and then he asked, or flaps 3, he's like, well, what about your, you know, the landing distance? Because yeah, we have a long runway, but I mean, we were a very heavy 321. I think we were just a few thousand pounds under max landing weight. And he's like, what are you going to do about landing distance? Because it's significantly high. I think it was 8,000 feet was the landing distance with the safety additive. So I was like, well, I'm going to use medium brakes then. It's like, okay, medium brakes. Medium brakes, flaps 3, Denver, summertime, 95 plus degrees outside. I wasn't really thinking about brake temperatures at that point. So the auto brake selection, if you guys don't know this, low and medium, all they are is a rate of deceleration. So low, I think, is 1.1, 1.3. Medium is like 1.5. That's check ride numbers that I should have memorized. But essentially, it's a rate of deceleration when you select auto brakes. So it does not matter if you use reverse thrust or not, because the airplane is going to modulate braking based on a rate of deceleration. The only thing that reverse thrust will do is maybe make the brakes work less hard. It's still going to decelerate the same, but you could save some temperature. So I decided to go medium brakes, idle reverse, flaps 3 in a heavy 321 in Denver. I tell you what, my landing was pretty good. A little firm, but it was pretty good. But before we cleared the runway, or I mean, it doesn't pop up until you slow down because it's inhibited during the landing inhibit sequence of flight. Man, as soon as we turned off that runway, the brake temps were 475 and almost like, I mean, they went straight to 400 degrees. Instantly 400. And I think by the time we got to the gate, they were 550, almost 600 degrees Celsius. And then the captain decided to rip into me. He's like, well, now look at the brake temperature. All right, now we got to, now it's too hot. Now we're not going to be able to taxi out. I was like, and then I was just thinking to myself, well, why didn't you say something? So I literally did the worst possible thing to do for brakes temperature, but I did the right thing in hindsight for everything else. You know, for wind shear, I was flaps 3. I was a little bit faster on my approach speed. I added some speed to my VAP speed, so we were a little bit faster. I used medium brakes to slow down to compensate for that. But man, you combine all those factors together, those brakes heat up like instantly. So yeah, before we even turned off the runway, they were 560, 500 degrees. Definitely don't recommend doing that in the future. So, but I learned from it, right? So now when I see FOs go through the same thought process of thinking, well, I'm going to use flaps 3 and maybe idle reverse, and it's really hot outside, I say, okay, well, consider this. You and I have to turn this airplane around here in about 45 minutes after we get in. I'm not going to be able to do that if the brake temps are 700-800 degrees. So let's factor that into our thought process as well. And then they're like, oh yeah, you know what, that's a good idea. We should probably, we'll use full reverse, or maybe we'll use full reverse and manual braking. And that's where I got my manual braking technique. Is I know a lot of people love to stress auto brakes, especially in the X-plane for some reason. If you guys love your auto brakes. But realistically, I don't use auto brakes unless there is a very strong crosswind in real life. Most of the time, I'd say 95% of my landings are all manual braking. And the reason for that being is I can really modulate how much brake pressure I'm applying. I can use that reverse thrust to help slow the aircraft down. And so I'll touch down. I'll do a little tap of the brakes just to make sure that I do have normal braking. Everything is good. And then I let off. I let the airplane decelerate with the reverse thrust. And then I make one nice smooth application with the brake pedals and bring it down through 70 knots and get the idle reverse. And then idle reverse until I turn off the runway. So that's a technique that I've developed. A lot of guys do the same thing, but that really helps you with your brake temperatures. Now, it's not maybe the most beneficial to the engines if you're using full reverse every time. So there will even be times if I'm light enough, especially in the years of COVID, where I'll use idle reverse and manual brakes, and I still just kind of let the airplane decelerate. Even though my landing distance is 5,000-6,000 feet, if I got a 12,000 foot runway, I'm going to let it roll. I'm in no hurry. That runway is yours. When you get cleared to land, that runway is yours. I mean, don't be egregious with it, but use that to your advantage. Save the engines, save the brakes, live to fly another day. So that's my little spiel about brakes and deceleration rates. I know everybody loves to use auto brakes in the sim. Like, why? It just takes, if anything, it takes away something that you get to do as a pilot, right? I like to be in control of my brakes. I should write a book, V1. Maybe, man. I'm doing the podcast, right? I got the podcast for you guys. All my members enjoy those podcasts. Cam 321, welcome. Hey, a beautiful name for a beautiful stream, right? Cam 8321. DJ says, I just got hype hearing you explain. Awesome, man. No, that's good. I love explaining these things to you, and you guys bring up some great questions, and then it allows me to go into little pockets of experience and little spiels. So I'm glad you guys enjoy it. Sounds like we just leveled off here. Let's take a look real quick here. We are doing 7.9 Mach. We're going to do some serious prep work on this approach when we are within 250 miles. So we still got some time, but once we hit about that 250 mile mark, I'm going to have to go heads down. We're going to discuss all the real procedures that go into effect going into MROC. But right now we got a little bit more time to hang out. 323 miles, 6.4 on the gas. Let's get back out here. Oh, that's a beautiful shot right there. Look at that. Man, I miss active sky. Aaron Hastings says, would you not enable low auto brakes just to take some of the initial cognitive load on touchdown, just to get some deceleration and get it center stable, then manual? Aaron, that is a very viable technique. So what Aaron is saying is, why don't you just arm them, and then as soon as they start to decelerate, turn them off manually? That's a very viable technique. I know guys that do that. Me personally, I like to just I manually do that, right? So I touch down, put a little bit of brakes on just to make sure I got normal braking, and then I'm off of them. Now, what I was saying though, and Aaron, so yeah, but that's a good technique. Guys use it. Personally, I don't, but I do use auto brakes not exclusively, but almost 100% of the time when there is a direct crosswind exceeding 15 knots. If there's a crosswind of 15 knots or more, I use auto brakes, because what happens in the airplane when you are manually trying to decelerate and the airplane is trying to weather vane into the wind, inherently you may press down one brake pedal more than the other, and then you're going to have a very asymmetrical heating, or you're going to have a substantial asymmetrical heating occur on the brakes. So you have one set of brakes that are 300 and the other is going to be 500. And you want to avoid that, right? Because everything on the airplane you want to try to do symmetrically. That's why the Neos, the Pratt & Whitneys, we have the dual cooling, so we can cool both engines symmetrically. We can use reverse thrust symmetrically. Now you can use reverse thrust asymmetrically too, but that's a technique that I use almost 100% of the time. 15 knots or more on the crosswind, I use the auto brakes. I'll start with auto brakes low unless performance-wise I really need medium brakes. In the real airplane, medium auto brakes, I mean, it really slows you down. Medium auto brakes, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I would venture to say that most of you that have flown Airbuses probably, I'd say maybe 80% of the time you guys are feeling low brakes or manual brakes. Medium brake is, you'll feel it decelerate. Slam Cannon says, I think the problem is the sensitivity of manual brakes and X-Wing. You really have to fine-tune the curve. Yes, and my brake pedals are pretty terrible as well. So my braking in X-Plane is pretty awful. But in the real airplane, I don't swerve all over the runway. Are auto brakes on Boeing's rate of decel 2? I always assume they're brake up. I don't know, the other Jason. So that's something I don't know. I'm not on the Boeing. Phase 1 NE says, I don't use auto brakes in the sim anymore after hearing you talk about in the past. I really have to use brake fans anymore. Exactly. And what's cool is the brake modeling on the Toliss, I think, is pretty well done. Because in real life, if you use low brakes and you use them to 70 knots or whatever, if it's above 80 degrees outside, 80 Fahrenheit, or maybe like 77, 25 C, you will 95% of the time have a hot brake ECAM by the time you get to the gate. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've got super hot brakes. It just means that they've reached that 300 degrees C threshold. So they may get up to 350, 375, maybe 400, depending on how heavy you are and how hot it is. But if you use auto brakes in the real airplane down to 60, 70 knots, you're probably going to have a hot brake ECAM anyway. But to me, I don't consider the brakes hot unless we hit 450. You know, anything above 450 is like, okay, yeah, you smoked the brakes. I had an FO do that to me not too long ago, man. Kind of like the same thing I did in Denver. But yeah, he slammed on him at 400 degrees instantly. Like, dude. At least we're going to the hotel after. Not my problem. But you could try to be courteous to the next guy flying the airplane. Cam says, how do you account for wind gusts on the wind section of the approach page in the McDo? Very, very good question. Let's knock that one out of the park right here. So, wind gusts on the Airbus. This is something that I'm pretty sure is an Airbus thing, so it doesn't matter what operator you work for. I'm going to say that in quotes because there may be some operators out there that have a difference, but I think this comes straight out of Airbus. So, you can adjust your VAP speed. Typically, we use half of the gust factor. So if you got a 10 knot gust factor, 5 knots, I'm going to throw it right on the VAP. The only problem is, what you have to be careful about, is you never want to exceed VLS plus 15. So we are already at 147. So that's 4 knots, right? So theoretically, I can only add 11 knots to my VAP. The fastest I can make my VAP would be 158. And then that's it. It doesn't matter what the winds are, what the gusts are. I can't exceed VLS plus 15. So if we're flying into MROC just like we are right now, and let's say we got a gust factor of 10, yeah, I'm going to throw 5 knots on there. I'm going to have 153. I'm below VLS plus 15. Good to go. So that's what we take into account there as half the gust factor. On the Embraers, it was a little bit different. It was all of the gusts and half the, or no, it was all of the steady state and half the gust or something like that. I can't remember. But that's all you got to know. And I'll throw a couple knots on here just depending on the weight too. Like if my VAP speed is right on the VLS, I might throw a couple knots on there just to give myself a little extra cushion. 2-3 knots. 2 or 3 knots, substantial difference when you actually look at the numbers. So you don't want to be overzealous with it, but you've got that approach correction up to VLS plus 15. So that's what we do when we are dealing with gusty conditions. Thoughts on Spirit's operational meltdown last week? Hey man, every airline has a meltdown every year. That's just part of the deal, man. Just part of the deal. It's really nothing new. I heard it was pretty bad. I guess they stranded, a lot of people, but it's just what it is, man. You start trying to ramp up operations, you don't have support staff to do it. Nobody wants to go to work, and they're going to have problems. But yeah, every airline has a meltdown. I've been a part. If I had a dollar for every meltdown that I've been a part of, I'd have a couple $100s, I'm sure. It just happens, man. Media loves to hype things up. I was telling somebody this the other day. It was like, look, anything you hear on the media, on any mainstream media outlet about aviation, it's probably full of BS. Or at least it's over-dramatized, overhyped. And as simmers, as you guys learn more about aviation, you'll probably start to notice this yourself. I remember when Malaysia 370 went missing, and the big headline on CNN News was, the 777 will struggle to maintain altitude when the fuel tanks are empty. Like, really? That's your big headline that you're going to put across there? And the media aviation experts are guys that have a sport license or something. So, no shade to anybody who has a sport license. I think that's pretty cool. But I wouldn't consider you an aviation expert. So just keep that in mind. Any aviation news that you hear in any mainstream media outlet, take it with a grain of salt. No way, it's 2331Z, Colorado 72. So I have that set up so we have a beautiful sunset approach. I have the time set up differently. So we're not in real time right now. We're in real weather, but the time is skewed, so we have a beautiful sunset approach in MROC. Fuzzy Condor says, when auto brakes become engaged on landing, does applying manual brake at any point in the sequence disable them? Yes. So that's actually something you have to be very careful about on a rejected takeoff. So auto brakes are part of our RTO. We have max auto brakes for a rejected takeoff, which is essentially 100% braking pressure. You do an RTO in real life, it's extremely aggressive. Now, what you have to be careful about, and this will get new captains, this gets new captains a lot, is when we practice a rejected takeoff, let's say you have an engine failure 5 knots prior to V1. So high speed, 130 knots, high speed regime of the takeoff roll, and you go to reject. If you were not trained previously on an auto brake airplane, guys have the tendency to instinctively press on the brake pedals. It's hard not to. But the problem with that is as soon as you apply any force to the brake pedals, you just turned off your auto brakes. So now directional control and maximum deceleration is all on you. Whereas if you leave the auto brakes engaged, All you have to worry about is directional control, because you start the reject, thrust levers full reverse, the airplane is already symmetrically applying maximum auto brakes. So all you have to do is maintain directional control on the runway. A technique that guys like to use is keep your heels on the floor. That's also a good technique because you don't want to ride the brakes on accident. If your heels aren't on the floor and you're going down the runway, you might be riding the brakes just a little bit, especially if there's a crosswind, you're trying to keep that center line, you might ride that brake. So you go positive rate, gear up, ding, hot brakes. Ask me how I know about that. So heels on the floor is a good method for that as well. But yes, Benny, or who asked that question, whoever asked that question, yeah, as soon as you touch them, even on landing, they will disengage. Whiska says, absolutely agree about the media and aviation. There's always panic and fear about normal things. Yeah. Chris Super says, boy, getting out of Vegas was a pain. I bet, man. I bet. So what they said is they went to a hurricane drawdown, essentially. So what that means is the only way to, and this is true for any airline, any meltdown that you have. What is a meltdown? So a meltdown essentially is when you start having airplanes that aren't in the proper position. When an airplane isn't in the proper position, the crews aren't in proper positions. So you may have crews starting to time out because they can't get to their airplane because their airplane's not there, or there was nowhere to park and the crew timed out. So this starts a snowball effect. Okay, well, the flight for tomorrow, we can't go because the crew that's operating the flight out of Dallas is still in Houston. Okay, well, how do we do that? Well, let's move another crew from the reserves over. Okay, so you bring a reserve guy in. But now something else happens, now you don't have any reserves, so now you have to cancel. So the only way to get ahead of airplanes and crews being mismatched and out of position is to proactively cancel everything that does not have a fully staffed crew in position. So that'll stem from, chopping off 50-60% of your flights, and then hopefully the next day it's down to 40%, down to 20%, down to 10%, and eventually you get ahead of the curve. Because everybody that was out off duty, now their duty times are all maxed out. They can't fly because they haven't been home in so many days, or they haven't had time off. It's just a huge mess, and that is the meltdown. That's one version of a meltdown, right? And the only way to get ahead of that is to proactively cancel hundreds of flights. Well, depending on how big your operation is to proactively cancel flights. And that's a very common in all the airlines I've worked in the States. Anytime there's a significant weather event, like a hurricane or a nor'easter, anything like that, you'll see that happen a lot, where they do these proactive cancellations just to get crews in position so you don't have that problem with mismatched crew members and airplanes. Phase 1 NE says, totally unrelated to the current convo. If you've inquired about being part of the Phoenix 320 beta, or if you're interested at all, Phase 1, I would love to be part of the beta team. I have no idea if they're even accepting beta guys at all or not. I said a few things to Mir in their Discord or whatever, and I was talking to Black Box, who's also part of their alpha team. But if they reach out to me, I would absolutely love it. I don't know if they will. They seem like they have a pretty good set of guys already working on it. But, oh man, I would love to. I think that's going to be a pretty sweet airplane for sure. Slam Cannon says, a media aviation expert asks blimp pilot. Exactly. Man. Fuzzy Condor, you bet, man. Absolutely. Ad says, I get the feeling the media in the U.S. are hyping everything way more than here in Europe, although ours is getting worse too. Yeah, so here's the thing. I don't even turn on I don't even turn on mainstream media anymore here in the U.S. It's so bad, man. So I don't even know. I have no idea what has been said or really what's going on. Obviously I have friends all over the aviation industry, especially here in the U.S. Oh, my ears. So they tell me things, and, that's where I get my news from, essentially. But, Yeah, it's the media is a joke. It really is. All right, I think we have to start getting ready for our approach. We got to figure some stuff out here. So let's pull up MROC. The scenery is so awesome, guys. Exclamation point scenery if you want to check it out too. All right, we're gonna pull up the 10.9 page. We're gonna pull up the arrival. What did I say we were on? The Barra. Did you know airlines don't fly with full fuel tanks to save money? Yeah, absolutely, man. I don't think I've flown with full fuel tanks since I was a flight instructor. Top off 172. But yeah, it makes no sense to carry a fuel if you're not going to burn it, because you're just wasting fuel at that point. All right, I believe this is our arrival, and then we're going to pull up the approach. So we're going to set up for the ILS 7. So I had a buddy that just had this Cyrus visual. All right. So my buddy was flying down to Costa Rica the other day, and I've heard of this happening too. He's on the ILS, literally set up for the ILS DME 7. Winds are shifty around the airport down there. They are at Monte intersection, which is the final approach fix. At Monte, the controller says, hey, we need you to circle the Cyrus Visual 25. This is the Cyrus Visual 25 San Jose. So if you are not set up for this beforehand, it's going to be what we call an asses and elbows approach. You've got cross radials to verify, but if you're ahead of the game, we can plug all this into our secondary, which is what we're going to do right now. Now, what I want to stress here is the problem with this circling approach is if you're not careful, you can easily trigger a jip whiz, or you can trigger an alpha floor event on this turn to final. As you fly outbound to start your circle, this is rising terrain. You can see it's 4,000 feet over here. The highest peak is right over here, 5,000 feet. So you're flying into rising terrain, and then you have to make a sharp 180-degree turn to final approach. If you're fully configured, which you should be, fully configured at EPABE, you're probably going to be very close to that VLS. So you have to be careful. You have to manually, this is one of those instances where you may manually bump up your VAP speed or be in selected speed before, as you make that turn, and then go back to managed speed and on final. So let's go ahead and set up the box here. Just some basic stuff here. Let me just verify some basic stuff, and then I'm going to look at my company charts, and I'm going to make sure we have everything set up for the visual circle. So plan mode, I'm going to zoom it in here. Okay, OC 507, beautiful. This comes all the way down to Monte. Okay, so could he say unable at that point? Yes, Andre, he could have said unable, absolutely. And at that point, you're looking at an immediate go around. So, the way I don't want to get anybody in trouble. Nothing bad happened. They circled just fine and landed, but it was just what we call asses and elbows. Like, oh my God, we got to get this out. They didn't use all the available tools to them when maybe they should have, but they were fine. I mean, it's just an airplane. You fly the airplane, you'll be fine. And depending on where you work for, this may be a captain-only approach or a special qualification airport for this exact procedure. But yeah, everything was fine. But what you do is you set up that the wind, I guess, is so shifty down there. I mean, it could be favoring 7, and then by the time you're at the final approach fix, or from the time you start the approach to the final approach fix, the wind can flip 180 degrees on you. So on the go around into terrain at that point, I think would be a little bit more hairy, Andre, than making that circle. But it's all situational. It's all situational. All right, so let's set up just like we were going to be setting up for this approach. So let me go back one step. I don't want to be doing 345. Let's do 320 on the speed. Okay, and then we're going to come here. Let's set up all the information. Hopefully I can see MROC by now. Where are you? Close enough. We'll use this airport's weather. So this is why, and I'm going to show you, if you use the Airbus to its full extent, this last minute circle is basically a non-event. All right, 300, Wind is light and variable. So just like real life, light and variable, we're going to go 0. Temperature, I don't know what it is. Let's say 22 for now. And pull this back up here. The ILS 7 minimums straight in 3162. All right, so that is set. I'll make sure I'm not getting close to my TOD here. Still got a little ways to go. All right, so that is set. Now what I'm going to do in the secondary, using all available tools, is we're going to set this up in the secondary flight plan. And it actually says that, I believe, in one of our charts. So reporting point descriptions, crossing, Beeline, blah, blah, blah. If you go miss 7,000, out to Fanal. Yep. Climb to 7,000 and hold visual segment of flight legs. Expect ATC instruction. No final approach fixed. Minimum ceiling visibility requirements. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go secondary. We'll go secondary flight plan. I'm going to set up MROC. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set just the runway 25. I don't want an approach, right? So I'm going to go plan mode, zoom it in so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just going to set the runway, no star, no via. So what that does is it's going to draw a center line fix. So you see what I did here? I literally just drew an extended center line fix for Costa Rica. Now what I'm going to do is before the center line fix, we're going to plug in these waypoints. We're going to plug in Cyrus, Cyrus. Now I'm going to clear out lib above it there so I can see what I'm working with here. All right, so I got Cyrus. From Cyrus, we're going to Bravo, Echo, Lima, Echo, November. And we're going to pick the closest one. Cyrus, Belen, Ipabe, E-P-A-B-E, or EPABE, however you want to say it. And then it's a continuing turn. Now, what I'm not going to do here is I'm not going to connect EPABE to the centerline fix because I want to manually fly this. If I were to delete this disco, it's going to want to fly out to the CF fix here. And I don't want to do that. I want to start the turn and stay inside of that. So I'm going to leave it just like that. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to put altitudes in here. So Cyrus is mandatory at a 4,000 foot altitude. So we're going to put altitude constraint, 4,000, return. Belen is also mandatory for that. So you got to be 4,000 feet. You're low level because the field elevation is only 3,000 feet. So you're 1,000 feet above touchdown zone on this entire circle. And EPABE is also mandatory, 4,000. So I'm going to go back here. Now, I probably should have flown this at least one time in practice, but I didn't. But there you go, Cyrus, Belen. So now we have our secondary setup. So now I'm going to go secondary perf, and we're going to put in our perf numbers, 3000. Can I get a temperature from no other information available? Let me see what active sky's got. Briefing. MROC 25C, and variable winds, we'll put 0 for 0. Now for an MDA, what I'm going to put is I'm going to put 500 as a reference. Actually, I'm going to do I'm going to do 500 just as a reference here. I'll do 900 for autopilot. Which would actually be 3,900 on the MDA, right? So 3,900, not 39,000 in the secondary. So now I can activate secondary and we have all of our perf data set. Now we got to look at some other procedures to make sure we're still well within everything else. So that's good. We're going to use manual brakes on this one, full flaps, full reverse. We're below max landing weight. Everything looks good. How far till top of descent? I feel like we should be closer. 39 miles to go. All right. Once we get there, at the bottom of the arrival, that we're going to get to is 10,000. That doesn't look right. Bera, yeah, 10,000. And then we're going to oh, Atna, 10,210 knots. It's already in there. So I'm going to set 10,000 here so I don't forget. 10,000 is set. Let's do a flyby. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Watch your ears. Yikes. Thought I had it turned way down. Alright. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I don't miss anything here on the actual company procedures. So, MROC. Arrivals. Refer to special complex procedure. Complex special, if we have to go missed approach for an engine failure, that's all stuff that we'd have to take into account in real life. Approach to 7, expect irregular RA automatic callouts. So we can expect to hear some RA callouts. A change to runway 25 may occur as late as Monty. Be prepared for the Cyrus visual runway 25. On the missed approach procedure, be advised some FMS computed solutions may cause the aircraft to exceed the missed approach restriction of the TIO VOR 116 radial due to insufficient bank angles being commanded at 200 knots. Crews may need to intervene by increasing up to 30 degrees of bank and or reducing to a safe airspeed below 200 knots, including delaying configuration changes to ensure the aircraft does not exceed the TIO 116 radial. Now, I believe that's for the 7 ILS, right? Yes, so the runway 7 missed approach, you have to turn inside of this 116 radial. So that's kind of what probably was going through his head. Somebody asked that, why wouldn't you just go missed? This is a very not complex, but it's a tight maneuver, high terrain. You really got to crank and bank it here. Probably safer if you're confident to just do the circle to land. But if you do go missed off of 7, you have to make this 180 degree turn back before the 116 radial. And what the charts are saying is that if you're above 200 knots, the autopilot may not actually make that, so you have to manually intervene. This is a FOQA alert, unstable approaches. Like number 1 unstable approaches, so be careful of that. And let me see if I can pull up the other briefing here, because this is all good practice for me should I actually be flying there anytime soon. I'm not planning on it, but we might be, let's see, MROC, 15 miles, almost there. Actually, we're starting to get a little bit of a light chop here, so let's go ahead and manage it now. Go seatbelt sign on since we're getting a little bit of chop. Oh, I love that. That idle back down. I don't know which engine to use better. Ooh, that's pretty nice. Alright, airport briefing page. I want to look up this other briefing, make sure I'm not missing anything here. High terrain, all quadrants. Terrain mode is mandatory. .180 turns are prohibited along the runway except when authorized by air traffic control. So you can't just make a 180 on the runway. Safety vest must be worn during exterior walk-around. Beware of multiple hot spots so you don't taxi into anything. Airport elevation of 3,000 feet, total runway length of 9,800. Displaced thresholds at both ends. Wind shear advisories are not available from the tower. Runway is not grooved. Consider slippery when wet. That's pretty common in South America and Mexico. I see that a lot. A lot of ungrooved runways. Runway 25 not approved. Cyrus visual for a night circle. So we can't do it before nighttime. you're just joining the stream here, we're going over the briefing for MROC. We're going to do the ILS to 7 circle Cyrus visual 2.5. Real procedures in effect here. Blah, blah, blah. This is your normal route. Blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to skip through to make sure I'm not missing anything here on the approach. Do not expect to receive the El Coco VOR until approximately 35 DME. That's interesting. That's obviously a terrain limitation because it's sitting down there in the valley. Due to high terrain, a navigation interference area is located between radial 330 and radial 060 off the TIO VOR. So this is a different kind of animal airport down here. There's a lot of different things going on here. So that radial, you're only going to have reception within 35 miles. Can expect a blank area. There's a close by airport, careful of traffic. Turbulence is expected while descending through 250 due to wind coming off the mountain ranges. You see that a lot like in, what's it, Burbank? Yeah, Burbank, the Santa Ana winds, all that stuff. Transition flight level is 200. Slow and configure early to adjust for higher than normal descent angles. So we're starting to talk about, you know, what we talked about, our high density altitude conversation. We're not super high density altitude here. I mean, we're 3,000 feet, but you also combine that with warmer temperatures and maybe, you know, steeper descent paths. Being fully configured is going to be the way to go. Maximum 185 knots on final. It is important. Here's an important note, all in red. This is the first time I'm reading all of this. This is interesting. Nick D. El Coco VOR. Yeah, I love that too. It's funny. One important note in all red. It says do not exceed 185 knots on final. So there is a limitation. Does it show it on this chart here too? Because it has it on mine. Ah, look at that. Max 185 knots on final. Do not enter the Pavas ATZ. This is a different animal, man, coming into this airport here. How's everything looking up here? We are managed descent. I got to set transition altitude. There's flight level 200. What? There you go. Flight level 200 is our trans altitude. Alright, what else we got here? I'm starting to sweat, guys. I'm getting a little nervous here, if I'm being honest with you. ATC normally clears the approach to runway 25. Cyrus visual. Do not request direct Cyrus. They will only clear down to 6,000 feet instead of 4,100. Proceed with the approach as cleared. Interesting. Captain Big Mike, what is up, man? Thank you so much for the $10 bomb. I appreciate it. He says, how's it going, V1? Awesome content as always. Captain Big Mike, thank you so much for your donation, man. I appreciate that, good sir. I'm doing well, man. I'm getting a little nervous here, not going to lie, as we prep for this Cyrus circle to land here in the MROC. But appreciate your support. I really do, man. Thank you. All right, so we have to fly the approach as published, 4,000 mandatories. So essentially, I'm reading this as that whole 2,000 foot 180, that's all going out the window on this approach, guys. We are going to fully configure the airplane well prior to turning off on this visual approach here. The approach needs to be built. It is recommended to follow this procedure as close as possible. FOCWA has identified unstable approaches for 2.5. All right, here's the guidance, blah, 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 which is essentially what I just did. This is kind of cool. So this airport briefing that I have, which you guys can't see, unfortunately, is essentially what I just did in the sim. It's showing you how to build it in the secondary. Here's a good note that's important to know. We got to keep this in mind. If executing the missed approach, you must fly to the end of the runway before the right turn towards final. All right, here we go. Transitioning from the ILS 7 to Cyrus visual. Some billboards on the right side of the approach create an optical illusion, making them look closer than they actually are. Important to note that. We don't want to be hitting any billboards. At 5,000 feet, Barrow, select heading and activate the secondary flight plan. Proceed direct Cyrus and verify FMA nav. Mandatory restrictions are 4,000 and 160 at Cyrus. So for us, I need to change that. I think I had only the altitude in there. So let's come down here. So in the secondary that we built, we already built that. Cyrus, we have a speed constraint of 160 now. All right, 160 at Cyrus. That is set. I'm also going to turn terrain mode on here. Thank you for the subscribe. Appreciate it. What is that? Brats? Appreciate the subscribe, man. Alright, so we know you got a nice weather reload there. Beautiful. Oh, the sun is starting to set. This is going to be beautiful. Which wing view is better? I don't know. I like this one here with the mountains in the background. I apologize for kind of ignoring the chat here right now. I want to get to the rest of this. All right, so 5,000, that's important. And we know 4,000 and 160 at Cyrus. Configure on schedule. Here's what I was talking about. It is highly recommended that the aircraft be flown in selected speed until it is near wings level on final in the landing configuration. So that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. This turn to final here, this is how you can very easily trigger a V alpha floor or an alpha floor protection event. So high bank angles at final approach speed, if you're fully configured, you're only going to be a few knots above VLS, right? Alpha floor, if you've been following this channel, you know that alpha floor is a predictive function of a high angle of attack situation. So you don't necessarily have to be stalling for alpha floor to activate. So what happens is if you're at VLS or VAP speed, a few knots above VLS, and you crank this bank angle in here 30 degrees, that VLS is going to come up and bite you. Once it starts to come up, alpha floor is going to say, oh my gosh, it looks like you might be in a high AOA situation. Boom, there you go, Toga thrust. And the last thing you want here is a freaking Toga thrust in this turn to final. Not only do you have Toga thrust increasing your pitch and your AOA and climbing out, that's going to increase your ground speed, right? When that increases your speed, your turn radius is going to increase, and now you're starting to look at terrain over here on this side. So we're going to keep it in selected speed as we make this turn over here. But that's a very important thing to note. Is alpha floor is a predictive function of a high AOA situation. So you got to be careful on this turn. Cross Beelan, gear down, flaps 3. At Ipabe, autopilot off, flight directors off, full flip flaps. All right, so this is Ipabe, according to my briefing here. We need to have everything done and completed by Ipabe. At Beelan, flaps 3, gear down. So we're going to go gear down, flaps 3 at Beelan. Start a left descending turn at 25. Do not fly to the center line fix. The PM must ensure 25 is a two-way point so the donut will be accurate. That's an interesting. I wonder what's going to happen here on this approach. So do not fly. Oh, let's go ahead and set 3000, I believe. Right? Let's see if I can get the most accurate. I'm going to have to look at that. So that center line fix that I put in might screw up our donut. 3005 now on the meter. 3005 is set. Let's go back here. 3005. And our secondary perf we also need to update. So when we activate secondary, 3005 is set. Alright. Things are looking up. I think we're about done with this briefing. We gotta start flying the airplane here. Sam, welcome, dude. We're just about to enter the most stressful part of this approach. Alright, that's about it anyway. Okay, so that's important. High terrain. Significant displaced threshold. Alright, basically we're all going to die, is what I've gathered from this. So, let's buckle up those seat belts and do a flyby view. Alright, here we go. I probably ignored a lot of chat there. Sorry guys, but I wanted to get that briefing out. All right, we got to start slowing to 250. Let's go ahead and get some spoid brakes out. Alexandra Bellini, thank you so much for the 27 real. Yes. Appreciate it. Says, man, so many recommendations for this approach. It sounds like my wife when I used to leave the house to go to work. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate that donation. Yes, it does sound that way, my friend. It definitely does. Definitely does. All right, 250. Stow the brakes. I'm excited. Christian says that was a briefing. I thought you were reading a book. No, that is the approach briefing for this, man. That's why this is a different animal, man, going in here. Now in Sim World, yeah, we can do whatever we want, just kind of mess around. But in real life, you also have to be thinking. So now, if this were real, I'm also thinking, okay, what if I have an engine failure on the circle? What is my out? Which way am I turning? What's my engine fail procedure for 2.5? Engine fail procedure for 7 does no longer apply, so I'm not making a right turn. If I'm on 2.5 circle, to make a left turn. So these are all things that I have to start thinking about. Okay, what about any other sort of failure that can happen? What if we get a wind shear? What's my escape route? What if we get an alpha floor? Where am I going? So these are all things that you got to start in real life. I would really be thinking about. Man, that was like a juicy spot on the wing. I mean, I don't have that one bound, but like right here. Oh yeah, that is the juice shot right there. If you haven't already, hit the like button for Airbus wing flex. It's just enough flex. It's not over dramatic like a 7.8, but it's just enough flex where you can really see that this is a meaty airplane. Man, 10 for 10 on the textures on this wing. I don't know if this is just a paint job or what, but I kind of like the number on the registration number up there. But man, hit the like button for that. Mr. Martin says, I feel stressed out.
Subscriber ahead. Look up.
Secondary transfer level 2, phase 1. Theoretically, yeah, I should have changed it, but because we already set the transition altitude manually, we already pulled out of it, we'll be all right. That won't affect the approach. But if I was on a line check, yeah, I probably would have changed it. Max Frank says, this looks great. I'm going to have to go at this right after people stop calling me and I land in JFK. Awesome. Gustavo, welcome, man, from Montreal. Man, that is a long way from Montreal down here in Costa Rica. Glad to have you aboard, my friend. I'm about to try to do this Cyrus Visual Circle 2.5 down here. I don't know if you've ever flown into Costa Rica. I haven't yet. My operator does. We just haven't done it yet. Oh, boy, that's why flaps one. And I'm going to go ahead and select speed, 180. All right, no more messing around. There's 10,000. Let's go ahead and light it up. Speed out star. And our approach, we no longer need this. Monty 4900. Thrust idle, open descent. Let's go ahead and extend flaps 2. I love the red tips. It's like red lipstick. This is the best sound of BSS right here. This idle descent buzz, high pitch whine. Just listen to this. Man, it sounds good, doesn't it? That sounds so good. All right. 180 knots. I'm going to arm the approach. Let's see, we're not even... Oh, we did get our 14 from TIO. All right, we're Cat 1, autopilot 1+2. We got to be... I think we have to be below 6. We're going to be a little bit high. Let's go spoid brakes out. This is just what I love doing, going full speed brake. into terrain. Gustavo says, nope, never been, but I got there in time for your book reading. Yeah, man, felt like a freaking novel. Look at this terrain, guys. This looks beautiful. Glide slope blue, loc is blue. We're cat 1 because our DME. Fuel below 66, everything is good. Landing checklist is all we have left to do. 3005 is set. You know what I'm also going to do here? We already flew through it, so we don't no longer need to activate confirm. Once we make this turn here, should have my LS button on. There it is, glide slope star, loc star. I'm going to continue to slow down. VFE next, -10, flaps 3. So, oh, look at the spoid brakes, auto retract, flaps 3, that's awesome. Alright, so, here's the deal. Glide slope loc. What we have to do now is we're going to select heading, vertical speed. I'm going to go secondary, activate secondary, direct Cyrus, insert, manage nav, 4000 blue, thrust idle, open descent nav. We're direct to Cyrus for the Cyrus visual now. What does ignition mean on the IAEs? Yeah, it's for IAE motor only, and every time you extend flaps 1, they will deploy. Oh, I'm sorry, they will deploy. They will auto turn on. I mean, just look at that terrain, guys. That's what we're descending into right there. Alright, so I have no idea if we're going to butter or not. I'm going to try to do this as realistic as possible. Making a left circle without track IR. I should have track IR on. That's going to be the hard part, is making the turn without track IR. Alright, 160 is our speed limit at Cyrus, so I'm coming back to 160 now. We already are in flaps 3. We are below max, right? Yeah, 164, so we're still relatively heavy. If you haven't already, guys, hit that like button for this approach, because this is pretty gnarly. Here comes speed alt star, 4,000 feet. Check. Bank angle, check. Alright, we're going to turn outbound. We're going to stay at 4,000 now. And when was I supposed to turn the autopilot off? I believe it was Beelan, right? So we're flying, we're visual, runway in sight. So theoretically, you could shoot that ILS and then break off from the visual circle here. Here comes the turn off of Cyrus. And I don't even have any ortho around here. Man, imagine if I had some serious ortho. Wow, look at this shot right there. That looks amazing. Alright, we have replay mode. Let's fly the airplane. Sam? No, it just means they're safer than CFM, which means they're better. We'll go ahead and ding the flight attendants up front here. After we pass Beelan, we're going to go gear down, flaps full. Now, this is what, remember, we have to stay on selected speed here. So our VAP is 147, but because of the VLS like we discussed, I'm going to keep it in selected speed here for a little bit longer. Should have messed around with this CF point. I wonder if I should have deleted that. That's going to mess up my vertical deviation, don't it? There's the other airport you got to be careful of. Alright, here's Beelan. Gear down. Flaps full. Spoilers armed. Alright, we're fully configured. And we're going to have to hand fire this turn, right? I'm going to come back to 152-ish. Autopilot off. Flight director's off. Give me the bird. Maximum birds in chat. Here we go. Maintain 4,000 feet here. I'm going to keep my mouse over here so I can go. But you see, if I was at VAP right now, as I make this turn, it may be a little sketch. You might get close to triggering that alpha floor. Runway heading is 25-ish. Should have looked that up. There's definitely things I could have done better. Alright, there's EPABE. Start the turn. It's a descending left turn, so we have to descend here. We have to cheat with the mountain. See, the terrain is right. I feel so low to the ground. Almost walk that speed back a little bit. I'm not descending. I need to descend.
Hundred above.
Remember, we are going to get spurious calls. Ignore those.
Minimum
400.
This is freaking sketchy, guys. No wonder my buddy called me. It's like, dude. Oh, there we go. Runway in sight. Just a hair low. Shallow out that bank angle. Manage speed. That was epic. That was epic. Look, the winds are favoring 252. We got 10 knots on the nose. That was... I mean, I felt so low to the ground that whole turn. Oh, let's not butcher the landing up here.
200.
Correcting, a little bit low. Big displaced threshold. Alright, screw it. I'm not going off that. I'm going to come in a little bit low here. This displaced threshold is so trippy.
50, 40, 30, 20, retard. 10,
5.
Spoilers. Reverse green. $70 knots. Whew. That was gnarly. What did we get? 281 on that touchdown? A little bit high. I felt high on that. And I was high, but the Pappies, maybe I didn't look at the Pappy approach. Maybe it was steeper. Maybe it was like 3.5. That's something I'm going to have to check. Because the Pappies were showing 4 reds. But we crossed at 60 feet. All right, so we're going to clear over here. Max, I just caught your comment. You should do this for a living. Very funny, my friend. All right, look at that. We are clear of the runway, guys. I can't wait to watch that entire replay. I hope you're all ready to stick around for epic replay mode. All right, let's clean it up. Let's go ahead and stow that. Let's go ahead and kill our lights. Whew. Welcome to MROC. Says that Papa didn't look accurate. Yeah, it was throwing me off, man. Wasn't a 281. What did the? I'm curious to see what like the other plug-in said. It pops up at the top right. I didn't even figure. Was it 280? Is that what the one on the left said? But see, that's the thing. I don't know. I'll have to look at it again. Maybe I didn't flare quite enough because I was thinking that you know, high density altitude. Maybe I should have flared a little bit more. Looks like I feel like I'm taxing with the brakes on here. Like, see that 490 on the brake temperature? That's pretty normal. Everything else is cleaned up. Brakes are off. Everything is good. Let's go ahead and start the APU while we're at it. But how beautiful is the scenery, guys? Welcome to Costa Rica. David Perez, best captain, best vibe. Thanks, man. There'll be a raise at your next check. I sure hope so. I'm literally sweating a little bit. I'm literally sweating. I'm not gonna lie. That approach, that's up there with some of the top approaches we've done. That reminded me a lot of the Calvi approach. We did that circle in the 727 and in the Neo into Calvi. The whole circling, see, look, this is all rising terrain. So you're descending into rising terrain. It is such an optical illusion. It makes you feel like you're going to fly right into the ground. That's up there, though. That is definitely up there with challenging approaches. At least to do it right without trying to trip a sync rate or whatever. But I'm going to have to fly it again and look at that PAPI, because maybe, I mean, does it show it on here? Like, does 2.5, they only have R&Ps. They have R&P AR. That would be fun to fly. Maybe we should have done R&P AR. What do they got for approach path? 3.5. Look at that. 3.5. So it is steeper. So I'll have to fly it again and look at it. The other Jason, thank you for the $10 bomb, man. I appreciate it. Such a fantastic stream. Great info. All flight. Awesome approach. Thank you. Thank you, the other Jason. I appreciate your support, man. Appreciate that so much. Thank you. Sam, I should, right? Yeah, glide path on the RNF. Yeah, Beckham, yeah, I just saw your comment. The glide path was more than 3. I was kind of working that bird. So for all that aren't familiar, I love using that bird. You put the tail of the bird on the horizon. That's 3 degrees. Now, while I was pretty much good with my descent rate, I probably should have bumped it up a little bit. Maybe stay a little bit higher, but hey, looking at the end of that runway. Oh, I never started the APU, rip me. Looking at just the cliff drop off there. All right, these are these weird lead-in lines. Alpha 12. Get out the way, son. There we go, coming left. But this scenery is amazing. Okay, I know you're telling me to go straight, but I'm not going to listen to you because I know I'm not straight. Now we're going to come left. Yeah, boy. Oh, oh, too much, too much, too much. They need a tiller. Somebody needs to make a tiller in X-Plane. A little bit more juice. Close enough. Brake set. Engine 2. Seatbelt sign. APU is on. Engine 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Costa Rica. Evan says, I'd like to see that Atlas 7.4 getting in there. Absolutely. Miss Jungle says, what an awesome informative stream has been. Hit that very clean like button. Yes, I appreciate it, Miss Jungles. Thank you, thank you. Oh, I never turned off my taxiway light, or my taxi light. That's probably why he's pissed. All right, we are here. Look at that. We still got the beacon on. But this scenery is awesome. All right, let's go replay mode. So I'm going to go replay for you guys. And I have to turn all my lights on, right? So we can see the lights on the replay. So I'm going to remember to do it. All right, here we go. Boom. Back it up. I don't know where we got to watch this from. All right, let's watch it a little bit from right here. Voitek says I'm using the bird now and have better landings. Awesome. Bird is a big tool. Big tool. This is not default. The scenery can be found at ! scenery. I believe Alex is his name. He sent me a link to try it out. And I get a lot of emails, you know, for the V1 channel account. And this one I looked it up. I was like, wow, that actually looks really amazing. I loaded into the sim with this new scenery, and I thought I was in a Payware airport. I mean, this scene, look at it. How beautiful does this look? It is a Payware quality free airport, 100%. Oh, that is so beautiful right there. Oh, that didn't seem like a 286. Not from that view, anyway. Oh, yeah. Let's back it up even further. That was pretty sweet. I want to back this up here where I do a little bit of the turn, so we can see the turn. Oh yeah. Look at that. This is Calvi 2.0. This is literally that Calvi 2.0 approach. This scenery is truly the full juice. This scenery is 100% certified juice. Little green circle on the MFD, that's the bird. That's the bird, Rex Royce. That's the flight path marker. Or, yeah, flight path marker. No, that might be from an F-18. It's essentially a flight path marker. It's the actual position of the aircraft in its track. We call it the bird. Flight path angle. That's what I think its definition is. Yep, it is free. 100% free. Lima and Istanbul look free also. Look Payware. Awesome. I'll have to check them out for it, George. But that big displaced threshold has got me. Oh. So the reversers. Yes, sir. All right, let's back it up. This is going to be a cool shot here. Then we're going to wrap it up. I'll leave the music play. I'll give you a bunch of replays. Look at this. Man, 10 for 10 on the center line so far. Look at that billboard over there. We talked about that in the briefing. And then all you're looking at is essentially a carrier at the end there. A little bit. That seemed pretty realistic about how it didn't float. Look at that. I got the nose down on the center line. Ooh, dropped it a little bit. But, you know, maybe I needed a little bit more flare. Because you could see me flaring, but the airplane doesn't really arrest too much. But I knew I was getting towards the end, too. We're still on the touchdown, though. We nabbed that last one. And you're just looking at a cliff. Look at that. There's just a cliff right there. Too freaking cool. That was too cool. That was a lot of fun. I'm going to start wrapping it up. I'm going to let the music do the talking. I'm going to let the scenery do the talking. Definitely check this scenery out. Leave the guy a like and a comment. Exclamation point scenery. It's also in the description. But I'm going to let the music and just watch some of these replays. We'll wind it all the way back, too, for the end. But, mods, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Dougal, Simwings, big giveaway this Saturday on the Q8 Pilot channel. Make sure you check it out. We will be doing a giant one here as well in the coming days. I'm actually off to work tomorrow. Got a 2-day trip coming up. So if you're a member, make sure you're watching those shorts. I like posting those. Those are fun. I think I'm going to get better at making them too. Everyone else hanging out in chat, thank you so much for your support. Hit the like button for me. Donations, memberships, appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Until next time, guys, I'm V1. Stay safe. Stay healthy. See ya!